What was your school's faculty secret? High school QB was sleeping with the football coach's wife for 2 years before the coach found out everyone else knew. Girl in my grade was doing extra credit every day with the new math teacher our whole junior and senior year. They married shortly after we graduated. No one was surprised. 8 years later they are still together. Too bad the wife probably won't be charged or even discredited with child predatory charges. Same thing happened at my school, except it was a female health/pet teacher sleeping with a 17-year-old guy. Just got fired. She didn't get charged with anything but didn't get anything in the divorce, and the coach was the money maker, so still bit her pretty good. A shocking percentage of the senior class was sleeping with teachers. Very small school. Homeschooled. Alright buddy, you've G'd your last whore. I laughed and should not have. After all, I live in a made fun of state too, but not in the South. Ohio? There was a hot teacher at my school. There were always rumors the sixth formers had slept with her. Always a friend of a friend. Everyone assumed it was playground bullshit, and then a couple years back, 10 years after I left school, she gets busted for sleeping with a student and banned from teaching. All the rumors were true. She got away with it for 15 odd years because schoolboys are horny/thirsty as f. Haha. I had a similar thing happen where the freshman science teacher was rumored to have been on GGW a few years before she started teaching. There were also rumors that she was sleeping with the seniors, but TBH I'm not really sure if those rumors were actually real, since from what I can gather she still teaches there. One of our male teachers took in a girl student from an abusive home, and she lived with him for the rest of senior year with his wife. After she graduated, he divorced his wife and married the former student. They're still together to my knowledge. Also, this wasn't like a getting with the hot young teacher thing. He was a homely man in his 50s. He was later fired for a similar situation that happened years prior after the previous student came forward. Also, apparently our teachers had their own most likely list that featured gems like most likely to get a life sentence and most likely to fall for a Ponzi scheme. Grade 12 chemistry teacher, on the last day of class, went through every single person and tried to predict their futures openly in front of class. One student was likely to go to Europe and find the perfect Aryan chick, while I was either going to do everything or nothing. Can't actually remember any of the others, but the first dude married a Korean, so the teacher was way off. Twilight Zone idea, all of his predictions were right, but for different kids in the class. 2 male teachers f the married school psychologist. She remarried one of them after she left the school at once, asking the important questions. OPLS. Our high school librarian and business teacher were in a same-sex relationship and lived together. Nobody cared. This was mid-1960s. Both male or both female? Female. Sadly, that probably made a huge difference. Freshman year math teacher, a woman, had 2 dads. I don't remember how it got brought up, but she told us, and immediately regretted it. Us immature kids ended up making her quietly cry at her desk. She moved away soon after that. I felt bad the rest of the day, even though I wasn't a part of it. Senior year math teacher was a shitty teacher, just didn't teach whatsoever. Sat at her desk all class and gave us crosswords. She had a good sense of humor though, and was horsing around with a kid in class and punched him in the chest. The kid is a dick and goes to tell administrator she punched him, so she got her stuff and left before he could. We just didn't have a teacher the rest of the day. She never came back to work after that. My 3rd grade teacher, Mr. V, was gay. Not a big deal now, but in a small town in Michigan in 1973, coming out was not exactly an option. The thing is, he was everyone's favorite teacher. Kind, caring, enthusiastic, funny, and really good at his job. We called him Mr. V because his last name was too hard for 3rd graders to pronounce, something like Veselovsky, and he eventually had his last name legally changed to V. Many years later, when I was on a break from college in the 80s, I went out to dinner with him and his friend, and it dawned on me. Oh, Mr. V is gay. Pretty sure the faculty knew, and probably the more observant parents, but if I remember correctly it was never an issue. Awesome. I'm glad no one was a dick and made an issue out of it. I mean, it is nice that no one actively outed him, but it still sounds like he was dealing with the oppression of silence, which is sad. The whole, as long as you stay within the lines we designate, we'll tolerate you. One of the teachers was there her first year out of college and was secretly dating a senior boy. Right after graduation they started dating publicly. Similar thing happened with the band teacher at my school. They dated for a while and then got married and moved out of the country. They recently got diverted though. Everyone thought the high school history teacher was gay. He was rarely ever seen with his wife and would bring other men to school events. Turns out, the men were actually pimps and he was busted in a motel sting for prostitution. So like he was being pimped out by a string of dudes who he would bring to school events? Maybe he was helping the pimps who were trying to recruit more hookers? But the thought of pimps going to school events to recruit is an even darker thought. A teacher at my elementary school and her husband held a drug dealer at gunpoint during a citizen's arrest. The dealer had been supplying the teacher's daughter and the teacher really wanted that to stop. That's so badass. I just want to know how you found out. Today class, we are going to read a story about how Mrs. Frizzle once put a drug dealer at gunpoint after supplying her daughter with low quality drugs. What's the lesson here, kids? Mrs. Frizzle is a lot like the Duolingo owl. If you value your life, don't fuck with her. One of my classmates' mom was an in-room assistant and found out the story. She was overheard telling her husband, my classmate's dad, and the story spread like wildfire. Back in high school, we had a campus similar to a college campus. Instead of one large building, it was several buildings laid out. One building was dedicated to math, another for science, etc. Anyway, there were tunnels built underground that connected all the buildings that no one was allowed to use. Only faculty members knew where and how to access them. Evidently, they were built during the Cold War in case the United States was under attack. My uncle had a great story about secret tunnels at his college. They were supposed to be closed, but some students discovered an entry. It was a whole network, dating from WWII, between the buildings and the church in the middle of the campus. The local priest was a terrifying person. Every Sunday his sermon was a shouting performance about the evil he saw everywhere and in everyone. Satan, I know you are close, very close, where are you? So one day he heard a cavernous voice coming from the tombs. I'm right here, in this church. My psych teacher was the baseball coach for over the 8 years, winning the division title almost every year. Out of the blue he gets fired with no explanation from the school. Turns out he fucked one of the players' mom and the school found out somehow. I heard about it from an ex-teacher that I stumbled on during vacation. Edit. For clarification, the mom was married and the coach/teacher was in a relationship. Why would he get fired for that? Assuming the mom consented. I'm guessing it was cause it was bad PR for the school. He still kept his job as a psych teacher though. Art teacher's staff room always smelled like pot. They always denied smoking pot. They smoked a lot of pot. Spent most of high school wanting to become an art teacher because they sat around listening to The Cure and looking cool and indifferent. Their staff room was in a small dark building at the end of campus and looked really grunge. One time we were loudly talking outside their window and an art teacher came out to tell us to move along because we were ruining their jam session. My art teacher always played Monster Mash whole year round. Got stuck in my head. Now it's a huge source of nostalgia for me. Monsters don't stop mashing just because October's over. Each year the school would take the year 7 students, first year of high school, on a ski trip. The year I went, me and my friend were put in a hotel room where our balcony directly overlooked the balcony of a teacher who I'll call Mr. C. One night me and my friend went out onto the balcony in the middle of the night and saw Mr. C and another teacher, who we'll call Miss J, full on making out in the room. Curtains were wide open, lights were on, We could see everything. Of course, the next morning at breakfast we told all the other students around, one of whom was dumb/brave enough to ask Miss J how long her and Mr. C had been together. Both teachers denied it flatly, and when the trip was over we had an assembly where our head teacher asked us all to stop sharing the baseless rumors from the trip, told us that Mr. C and Miss J were colleagues and nothing more. Fast forward 7 years, my year graduates, so all students from that trip were no longer in the school, and the following term the school sends home a letter informing parents that Miss J will now be going as Mrs. C. We later found out the two teachers had gotten drunk and hooked up on the trip exactly as we'd expected, and later got married.